Witches during the Elizabethan era and the time of King James.
King James I of England, who was also known as King James VI of Scotland. He became the King of England because Elizabeth I, his wife, had no heirs, so he became the king. He went from James VI of Scotland to First of England in 1563. He was born on June 19, 1566, and died March 27, 1625.
Who were the witches? Witches were often perceived as old, sickly women. People believed they used different spells and potions to potentially harm others. They believed Satan spoke to them and gave them certain orders, and they made a pact with him for supernatural powers. Also, voodoo was a big part of their practice. Witches would make wax figures that looked like people and then melted them, which people believed made the person sick in real life. Witches were blamed for a lot like plagues, bad garden seasons, and anything that went wrong. People believed in witches using broomsticks, and in large, people really believed in witches and thought they were evil.
King James' fascination with witchcraft. The brutality of the Scottish executions were because of King James VI, and his obsession started since his mother's death was predicted before it even happened, and he believed the witches caused it. His obsession continued in 1589. He was married to Anne of Denmark, and she almost died when sailing to meet him. King James went to find her, but her boat was lost. She died when he blamed it on the witches and claimed it was because of their spells. When he got back, he went on a witch hunt, which was the biggest witch hunt in history, and it had no fewer than 70 subjects, and most soon confessed of their torture. They claimed that the spell they made was a dead man's genitalia and a cat's legs that they sent into the ocean. His fascination resulted in Scotland being the most active and ferocious place for witch hunting, and up to 4,000 witches were killed, which is more than double the execution rate in England. In general, from 1450 to 1750, there were about 100,000 witch trials in England and Scotland.
King James' views of witchcraft. He started a newspaper named News of Scotland where he discussed witches and frightened people more than they already were. He also made an official document named Demonology, the Science of Demons, which convinced witch killers to be more enthusiastic about killing witches and finding more witches. The document became very influential, and most people believed that witches were devilish and dangerous, just as he said. He believed witchcraft was a high treason against God.
Witch trials. There are ways that they were identified as witches, such as a witch mark, a mark a woman had gotten by the devil. Certain creatures they had were cats, dogs, rats, etc. They were called familiars. Recovery after counter magic. If someone was sick, and a spell helped them recover, the original illness was caused by witchcraft. Water was seen as pure, so if you put a witch inside a body of water and she floats, she was a witch, but if she drowned, she was not a witch. The way they did it, witches were sat on a stool before they got thrown into the water, and if they were to float, they got burnt. Confessionals. In extreme cases, they would use torture. Even if the person being accused was not a witch, they would name people that they knew were witches. The Witchcraft Act, passed in 1563, stated that they can kill people who were seen to do any of these, or who were assumed to be a witch.
Witch trials. In 1578, a notorious witchcraft case regarded Queen Elizabeth. There were 3 voodoo dolls of her found in the public, and she was afraid witches were conspiring against her. She got really sick shortly after, and she believed the witches did it, but she just had dental problems. They decided to try to find the witches in an infamous witch trial.
Purpose of witches in Macbeth. Shakespeare portrays the chaos, disaster, and brutality of the outside world by using witches in Macbeth to manipulate Macbeth into disaster, which led to Lady Macbeth, Duncan, Macduff's family, and Banquo's death. Furthermore, Shakespeare used the witches' characters to portray that the disaster brought upon characters in Macbeth was not because of the witches, but rather blamed on them because it was an easy way to excuse misfortune.
Shakespeare wanted people to be less on edge about the witches. From our studies, everything bad happened was blamed on the witches, but the book's message isn't about how the witches messed up Macbeth's life. Rather, it is about how Macbeth messed up his own life. In scene 8, Macduff says to Macbeth, "We'll have thee, as our rarer monsters are, painted on a pole and underwrit. Here may you see the tyrant." 5:8, 30-31. In these lines, Macduff is calling him a tyrant and trying to kill him, which shows that Macbeth's attempt to try to become king faster by killing multiple people only backfired because Macduff is trying to kill him now. The witches in Macbeth give him their prophecies, but he messed it all up for himself without the witches' impact. He rushed into completing their predictions and tried to take it all into his own hands, which was his own fault and did not relate to the witches at all. Even though he built the witches' characters based on the stereotypes of witches at the time, such as having familiars, they weren't dangerous like society made them out to be. The message of trying to portray the witches in a new light was seen by everyone who watched the play, including King James. He didn't know if King James would be mad about not showing the bad side of witches, but he still continued, which shows that he genuinely believed the witches weren't evil. Everyone's lives were so impacted by the thought of witches, and he wanted to take all that chaos and portray the witches in a new light.
Take it from the 3 witches.
We have a 3-step potion.
To get you through your Zoom day.
Start with coffee.
Then sugar.
Then milk.
Oh my god, when did that milk expire?
Oh my god, this expired in 1578.